Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 269, AppPalooza, recorded on Friday, September 22nd. From Zenatta Consulting, I'm Tyler Colt.
I'm Greg Belnap, and let's get right on into the show.
Beautiful. So astute viewers may have noticed that I am joined by a guest host here this week. Brett is out of office, so we've got the illustrious Greg Belnap to join. Good news is I am here to try to keep things on rails. We've all seen what happens when it's just Brett and Greg. Things get demonetized.
Chaos
reigns.
Yes,
chaos
but
and
hey,
demonetization.
You know, as eagle-eyed viewers will also notice, I'm clean shaven today, or well, clean shaven for me. So you know, I'm turning over a new leaf. This is straight laced Greg.
The villainous curled mustache is in the past.
That's right. That's right. I'm all business. No guff. No fluff. Just
the good stuff.
Yes, the good stuff. No, that's good. No guff, no good. Fluff, just the good stuff. Oh,
it's back pocket.
Trademark that.
Show.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Freddie, get that domain.
Get that domain right now. Before everyone clicks off due to our incoherent ramblings, let's get right on into announcements and events. Alrighty, so as usual, not a ton of announcements over here on the Club Zenatta portal. Some of those are actually going to be coming up in the next couple weeks, so keep an eye out for that. Last announcement was just about the quiz series that we're running over here on YouTube. So take a look at those, see how many you can get right. Let us know if they're fun for you, because we've been loading those up just to see what everybody thinks. Outside of that, in terms of upcoming events here on the Zenatta calendar, many, as always. So Azaz CRM Zen Show, as we do on a regular basis. Next month is actually going to be a Zoho Books full product overview. That's actually going to be done by John Oda, our Director of Finance. So probably a little bit more of a focus on the accounting side of the app, which is something that I don't fully understand, not an accountant. So had a couple requests for some content around that. So we hope you find that useful. In the world of Zoho events, they're starting to get going again. So they're doing a lot of different meetups here. I love this Beginners Club. These are meetups for Bigin, which is Zoho's kind of lightweight CRM. So coming to New York City, 2 locations in Florida for Orlando and Miami, and then really kind of across Houston, San Diego, Los Angeles. So if you are a beginner, consider checking one of those out. That could be a good time. Meet some fellow Zoho nerds and Zoho product people. But without any further ado, let us jump right on into the news. Alrighty, so first story here is in the world of CRM. We're talking about Canvas View. This is really the ability to reorganize and redesign the record views in a very, very flexible way. So color coding, moving everything around, right? Creating these nice fancy views. One of the challenges with these is that they were never available in Sandbox. So Sandbox environment for CRM is basically a playground, right? It's not affecting production. So you can go in there, build a Canvas view, show it to people. They could say, wow, we hate that, but you haven't caused any harm, right? Because you're just in the Sandbox view. You can go get their feedback, adjust it, make it cleaner, bring it back to them. So now these are going to be available there. So you will actually be able to configure these in Sandbox, test them out, and then push them over to the live system.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's and I don't know how much of a difference this makes in terms of actually just building your canvas itself, because, I mean, it could be before the Sandbox thing, you could just make like a Canvas view and maybe like limit it to just like the administrator profile or something.
Hide it.
But where I think this is particularly useful is for when you're in the Sandbox testing other changes, like any functional changes that you're working on, any new workflows or things like that, and making sure that and being able to use being able to go in there and look at it with your Canvas views and make sure that everything is still working right and like just looks good. Just makes it that much easier. Because if you're used to seeing everything in a canvas view on your day to day, then when you want to go and test workflows, then suddenly you're back to just like the standard view. And there's just like that little bit of extra thing where you're like, okay, I got to look at where those fields are again, where I've ordered them. So yeah, just a lot of indirect quality of life change with this one, I think.
Yeah. One little nice thing I'll highlight too is they kind of have, I mean, if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see that the UI that they have here maybe needs to be zoomed out just a little bit. But you do actually have the ability to look at current sandbox or current canvas view versus what you have in the sandbox to do like a side-by-side comparison. That's kind of nice. That's really nice. So that you can make sure that like you haven't missed anything. Again, like it's way too zoomed in. But nonetheless, being able to do that type of comparison is nice. But really, Greg, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, because you could always just hide these from all users until you're ready. This is great for testing like a user workflow, how it will actually look, right? Like in the real system. So yeah, nice updates there. And then this will apply for all the different types of canvas views for records, lists, all of that good stuff. Alrighty, next story here. So this is coming from Zoho Analytics, an application that we love over here at Zenatta. So a couple updates for analytics. One, we got a new data source. This is a data source for Mixpanel. Mixpanel, I believe, is essentially a tool to track user engagement with like custom applications. So if you had like an iOS app, you were tracking like how many people are landing on certain pages, clicking certain links, kind of like it's like SalesIQ type data, right? The like usage data for an application. Now you'll be able to pull that in. And then across a couple different applications that were already integrated, they've added some new fields. So projects gets some new fields under the tasks, all about task recurrence. Teamwork Desk, never heard of, never used. They now have a whole company's database that you can pull in. That seems like a big deal. Not being able to pull in companies, I would imagine, was rubbing some people the wrong way. And then here's actually kind of a sneaky nice one here is Zoho Campaigns is actually going to send survey IDs now. So if you had sent a survey via a campaign, you can actually much more cleanly connect that to the survey because you have that ID. So that one, it just kind of sneaks in here as a footnote, but that's actually pretty darn useful if you're using that integration.
Yeah. Now, granted, using that integration means that you now also have to deal with Zoho survey data in analytics, which we love to talk about. Is it technically makes sense. Like from a structural standpoint, I understand why it's structured the way it is, but you gotta do some weird joins to get the data looking to the way that you would think you would want to see it in an analytics view. But yeah, still good to have. Yeah.
Nonetheless, still nice. Then a couple cleanup things for dashboards. You're now able to move a view from one tab to another in a dashboard. So a view is basically any type of like chart, widgets, pivot table. This is actually nice, like especially when you're in like the early stage of building a dashboard. Like I don't know about you, Greg, but when I build one for us or for a client, I'm redesigning constantly as I'm building it. So just being able to like move something to a different tab rather than like re-add it, find it in the list, right? Do all of that is actually really nice.
Early dashboard design, you almost feel like you're just finger painting back in elementary school again. You're just sort of, I'm just mushing stuff all over the canvas. Just, how's that? Good? No, over here?
Okay,
better?
Let's change it.
Okay. Ooh, I like that. You can also set margin between the cards. It just depends on how much spacing you like to have with your data there. Make it look exactly the way you want it.
Yeah, kind of nice one because before everything was just touching, so like certain types of reports, like if you had two kind of similar looking bar charts right next to each other, they were very close. Or it would almost at a glance look like one bar chart across the whole screen. So that one's actually kind of nice. Enhancements to pivot views, we use these all the time. So you're able to, this is very minor, but like align column headers center, left, or right. Minor thing. I'm sure someone asked for it. They'll be happy to get it. And then showing or hiding data as a row. This is actually kind of nice. So What we're talking about is essentially when you have a particular set of data that is in the row section of the pivot table. So these are the things being like summed, averaged, right? Things like that. Now you can essentially set them up as previously just data in columns. Now they can be data in rows as well. So a lot more flexibility.
Where I've seen the most need for that is in creating like profit and loss statements, for example, on Zoho Books data, right? Because previously what you had to do is you would have to create a query table that you'd have to, because what you like to see is you want to see categories going down this way, and then one number here for how much you've made, and a number over here for how much you've lost, and then you know, big totals at the bottom. And you had to, the way that all the data is structured, and making a pivot table, it used to be that you would have to create you'd have to create a bunch of categories, and you'd have to specify the categories in like a query table or something like that to say, all right, here's a table. I need to sum up this category of profits and losses, and then I need to union that with another table with the next category. Union. And now, because you like to see it, it's easier to read vertically than horizontally. So this is a big help.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get to a place where you can build those like specifically like P&L, balance sheet, those types of things just with a pivot table, right? Just like pull out your account names, your like GL codes, right? And the journal transactions against them, right? And ideally you shouldn't really need to do a bunch of SQL just to make a P&L. Quick update, they did also add importing from MongoDB. That is a pretty popular online database. And then support for duration components. So duration component is interesting. I mean, it is really nice. I guess these would have to be calculated, right? Because not a lot of these are going to come from native Zoho apps, right? Unless this was just missing data and add some new columns. But
so for the most part, have it. Like the duration data type mostly is going to be something that you get like from a formula column that you make, right? Like where you say, okay, this, Zoho projects data. This is the start date versus the end date or the due date or, whatever. Then you can see how long things took. And so that data type has already been in the system for a while. But now what they have here is this little pop-up if you want to edit the data in a manual table that you've been uploading data to. You can now they have this little widget pop up that makes it easier to input that duration data. Because previously, if you were creating just like a duration column that you were entering data into, you had to just put it in, I think, as just like a number of seconds, I think is what it was. And so just not fun to work with. So just a little, if you are creating durations whole cloth, this makes it that much easier.
Got it. I guess use case here would be like expected minutes to complete, right? You have like a reference table of task types where you're going to manually type in like the expected time to complete and then maybe compare against those. So just make that a little bit cleaner. Well, all around good news in the world of analytics, always just adding more and more there. Next story here. This is a fun one. This is from Zoho Payroll. They're rolling out an academy by Zoho Payroll. It's essentially a way to get taught the relevant tax laws, how to execute payroll smoothly and pay employees on time. So there's a set of webinars, ebooks, resources, all that good stuff, kind of across the world of Zoho Payroll. It does kind of remind me of, say again?
I said asterisk. The majority of the tax laws and laws focuses are on India tax codes and India workplace law. But there is still, even if you're based in the U.S., there are some just some good articles in there that you can peruse.
Yep. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Zoho People team, how they have their kind of newsletter. I always Kudos Zoho. I appreciate when they do this, like there should be a page like this for CRM, that just has like some of these basic guidelines, understandings, because it's very hidden. I don't want to rabbit hole on this, but like if you keep searching on Google long enough, you'll actually find Zoho has made a lot of useful content about applications. It's just hidden. It's hidden in a forum post from 4 years ago. And you'll find this beautiful 20-page PDF about CRM implementation and best practices and all this. And so I like when they do this. Like Greg mentioned, it is pretty targeted at like specifically the laws of India. You'll see that in like Zoho people as well. Like it doesn't calculate overtime based on US law. But nonetheless, shout out to Zoho. Onward and upward. More content is better than less. Alrighty, back to the world of application updates here. We do have one for Bigin. This is actually pretty slick. It's enhancements to stage transition rules. So a stage transition rule, it seems like in Bigin, is kind of like Blueprint Lite. You're essentially setting up some rules to move from one stage to another. Doesn't seem to look as restrictive or as like all-encompassing as a Blueprint. But now in those transitions, you're going to be able to require a checklist, right? So kind of the example that they give us here is as a to-do list, where they're going to send a quotation, sales order, or purchase order. We need to check those off. That doesn't really make sense in practice, but nonetheless, you're able to set up essentially things that need to be checked off as people are moving from one stage to another. Important to note, these are not tasks. These are not records. There isn't a lot of like accountability metrics around these, but they are useful as a reminder, right, as you're moving through. And then one little thing they kind of snuck in that I feel like is more valuable than the checklists is that they're also allowing you to require files when you move between, which for me, it's like, okay, we're moving to the quote sent stage. Well, upload the quote.
Where's that quote?
Right? Where is it, right? Put it in here. So yeah, nice to have, more similar to, again, that like proper CRM blueprint functionality. And then minor update here, ability to clone custom views. This is just nice because if you have one and you want three and they should be similar, you don't have to make them from scratch, right? So just a bit of a time saver there.
Especially if you had one of those custom views that had like 17 conditions and you're like, I just need one where one of those conditions is different.
Yep.
You don't need to do, which
take time.
Really, really good. This does also definitely fall though into the category of, wait, what? Why was that not already there?
Well, sometimes sometimes I don't know. It's like back in the day when I don't know if I ever told you this story, Greg, but in inventory, you used to not be able to edit a custom view. You could make them, but you could not edit
I remember.
them. And I only learned that in working in a customer account. But kudos to Zoho. Like 2 days later, they added that button. So sometimes things like this is like, we forget to add the button. Maybe this has been there the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just the button that wasn't.
Like user, and hey, it went through all the user testing and just nobody needed to clone anything up until this point. And then everyone just somebody did.
Yeah.
Everyone was fine. and then somebody was like, hey, can I do this? Oh, right. Sorry.
Let's add that button.
Switch.
Nice updates there for Bigin. Not an app that we use all the time, but one that is actually quite nice. So now a quick update in the world of the mobile apps. We'll have one here and then a couple later in the show. So this is an update for Zoho Books with iOS lock screen widgets. We mention this all the time, but whenever Apple puts out new functionality in the operating system, Zoho jumps on it like a pack of hungry hyenas, and we love them for it. So they've added a couple things here for the Zoho Books mobile app. So from the lock screen, you can click a button and create an invoice. Now, important to note, this is going to move you into the Zoho Books app. So you would need to like log in. You can't do this without like entering your iPhone password, probably for the best. The big one here that I think people will use most often is the ability to track time. So just from your lock screen, you can start a timer that will roll up the time into a Zoho Books project, not a Zoho project, but a Zoho Books project. And you can add time entries quickly from the lock screen. So again, a couple minor updates here. This is just, again, leveraging the things that Apple rolls out with the new operating system. But yeah, nice to haves. I think the main one here that speaks to me would be the timer, right? Being able to turn that on and off. But yeah, if you want to invoice a little quicker on site for a job, maybe can't hurt to get there with a shortcut. Greg's like, I got nothing. So let's on to that next one. This is our CRM Community Digest. These come out every single month. Always good to take a look at. Kind of a roll-up of relevant updates. This is kind of your PSA here. Activity module is still being deprecated. This date is wrong. It's actually December 1st. They did move this back. It's not November 1st. But yeah, something to be aware of. So always good to check out these digests. Couple updates for mail merge, CRM portal. We've kind of talked about all of these over the last couple months, so we won't belabor the details here. One thing that is really nice, and again, why we always like to highlight these digests, is there are a lot of Zoho users and some Zoho partners that will go in these forums and just give out code, kind of like our code share, but just on the forums. And this digest always rolls up some of the real good stuff, right? So a custom button to create a deal record, creating note based on call information, things like that. These are generally things that can be plugged in with very little update to your system. So yeah, always good to see those. And then a couple things are in useful discussions, best practices. But yeah, always good to check these out. Highly recommend it. Shout out to the Zoho team for continuing to put these out. Anything in here stand out to you, Greg, or did I get it?
There was, and then we scrolled past it, and then my brain lost it.
There we go.
So...
Well, leave us a comment and guess which article you think stood out to Greg before he lost that train of thought.
I got it. It's the activity module deprecation. That's what it was. Right. Yeah. I'm very curious to know what kind of changes we might see. This is for all of us nerdy devs. Are there going to be changes on the back end with like all of the tasks and meetings and can you help me? Can you help me out understand when they say that the activity module is being deprecated? Are they saying that they're just deprecating that it used to be that tasks, events, or tasks, meetings, and calls were just all under one tab, and now they're making it so that there's only the 3 separate tabs, or are they actually? Yeah. Are there going to be whole new modules? Is there going to be a brand new task module with like different API names, for example, that are all task centric instead of right now, if you're working on things on the back end, there's sort of these shared fields between tasks and calls and meetings for like what the records are related to, the contact record that it's related to, that sort of thing.
$SE_module.
Yes, yeah, yep.
Everyone's favorite parameter.
Everyone's favorite parameter.
But yeah, it's one of those things we don't really know how it was originally set up, because like last year, I think they split it out, like kept activities module, but they added individual modules for tasks, meetings, and calls. And like when you create a task via like a deluge function, you've always been able to create it with the tasks module name. Right? Like when you actually reach in there and create a certain type of record. So it's like, were they always 3 databases and activities was like a union basically of those databases? Or did they actually split them and now they're turning off the original? The world may never know. It's like how many licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. But one thing I'll highlight here is they are actually adding over the next couple weeks more functionality to make this migration smoother. They've definitely got some feedback on like, hey guys, like for some clients, this is a pretty big deal, right? Like they have tons of custom views and dashboards. And so expect that they're going to, I think, add some additional little features there to make that easier. But yeah, just make sure to keep an eye on that, everybody. It should be December 1st. Make sure that you are all moved over by then.
And take a backup.
Take a backup. When in doubt, take a backup. Last news story here, and the inspiration for our show title. This is our AppPalooza. This is Zoho rolling out updates for a variety of different apps using the new iOS interactive widgets. So things like Notebook, right? New widget for that. Better usage of Spotlight search to be able to search into applications. App shortcuts for one-auth. That's kind of nice. That's one that you probably have to use a lot, right? When you're logging into your account. So good to have a shortcut there. SharePlay for Bigin. So if you want to collaborate on files, things like that during calls, again, why not? 3D models for Bigin and Zoho inventory.
This is the most interesting one.
Yeah, let's take a look at this little video here.
Yeah,
of what exactly we're talking about.
The idea is that you can, you'll take several pictures or a video of your product, and then I guess it's going to generate a 3D model of your product for you. So the idea is that you could put this on, because a lot of times you'll go to like Amazon or something, and you look at their catalog, and there's like an item, you're getting like a lamp, or something, and you can go in there, and then you can like drag to like rotate it around, and kind of like you can like look at a 3D model of it from all sides. So I mean, that's really cool. Is there a spot? But is there even like a spot in Zoho inventory?
Yeah, where does this go
where does it go? And like, you'd because you want this to exist on like, I don't know, like your storefront, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So who knows? Useful tool. The big mystery here is Bigin. I'd imagine like CRM would get this, but Bigin gets it. I guess there's some use cases though, like this. They highlight like construction floor plans. We work with a lot of people in like the solar install space. So being able to take a quick scan of maybe like a roof, and it gives you like the blueprints, like I could see some value there. You're on site, you've got the deal open. But yeah, always interesting. They like to stay up to date with all of these, photo picker, right? Basically everything that Apple is doing, Zoho is always going to try to stay in line with. So highly recommend you take a look at this story here. It'll be delivered to your inbox on Monday if you're on our newsletter. If not, why not? Sign up for that bad boy, and we'll send you out news like this every single Monday. Alrighty, and with that, I think we're ready to get into our implementation of the week. Hey, who's that guy? So this week in our implementation, this is actually one that we did internally. This is a function using an email workflow for tracking the last email sent to any particular contact related to an account that has a deal open for it. So essentially our goal here is just to make sure that clients are receiving ongoing communications, updates on tasks, requests for next meeting, things like that on a regular basis. So we wanted to create a date field on a particular deal that would update itself anytime a contact in that account is sent an email. Now, that phrase is really important for this because, in a Zoho implementation, we are oftentimes working with multiple stakeholders, right? We might be working with Greg on the sales side, and we're working with Freddie on the marketing side, right? And they might be kind of like sharing a deal with us, right? One budget, but we're using it for these two different projects. So we want to make sure that we kind of look up to the account and then look down to the deals in terms of like the flow of data as we're running this automation. So first step is to ensure that all relevant users have their IMAP integration activated and set to public for their email accounts. Jordan, our director of consulting, wanted to give me a hard time because he thought this code was bugging out, but he did not have his IMAP set up. So that is necessary for this. It needs to be connected. Otherwise, the CRM doesn't know an email is sent, and it's not able to trigger this function. Yes, Jordan, I did just slide that in to the show to give you a hard time. So after that's all set up, everyone's got their IMAP. We set up a workflow trigger on emails in CRM. Essentially, the same way you can trigger a workflow on the creation of a contact or a lead, you can trigger a workflow anytime an email is sent or received by a lead or contact. So when an email is sent, in this case, I don't really care if we're receiving them. For the use case of this is about us responding, us reaching out. Then the function will grab the account related to the contact that received it and pull a list of all the deals related to that account. And then for each deal, it will check if the type of that deal is service. That's kind of the record that we use to manage an ongoing engagement as a service deal. Then the function will date stamp the appropriate field with the date that email was sent. So really, the goal of this is just to give like a quick view where a consultant can look at their list of deals, go, you know what, like this person hasn't had an email from me in 5 days. I think I'm waiting for them on a certain project or a certain file that we need. Let me go ahead and just check in and send a ping over to them. So because it's built by me, we're going to put it in the lower level of technical requirements for this. I thought about tapping you and Greg, but I hadn't written Deluge in a little while, and I thought it would be fun. But super useful implementation, right? And kind of just taking advantage of that emails workflow trigger. Over the last year or so, Zoho's done a lot of work to add more functionality to how email integrates with CRM. And this is one of those use cases that works out really nicely.
Yeah. I know that we've done a lot of similar workflows like this that can also expand to other activities, like a task being completed, or we've created like a last touch date. This is just kind of a more specific version of that. And then just to reiterate, help me and the viewers understand, when you say that every relevant user has to have their IMAP integration set, do you mean anybody who is involved in this function, or just anybody in the, does everybody in the CRM need to have their IMAP set up, or only the people that would be checked via this function?
Good question. So this function, you could bolt on to this function that only emails from certain user profiles or user roles count. Version 1 of this is very broad. So really, anyone who you would want an email from them to trigger this flow would need to have their IMAP integrated. So technically, you don't send a lot of emails directly to clients. So if yours wasn't integrated, probably no deal. I think it is, but if it wasn't, it wouldn't really be a problem here. An update to this function that I might make later is to make it only trigger if it is sent by the owner of that deal, for example. But because multiple stakeholders, maybe I'm involved, maybe you're helping out with something, that should count as the touch. But you could surely make this increasingly specific by looking at users or roles.
And so if somebody doesn't have their IMAP set up, it doesn't prevent the workflow from working on other users who do have their IMAP set up. It just means that any emails that user sends from the CRM won't trigger it.
Won't trigger. Yeah, exactly. Well, sweet. With that, I think we're ready. Go ahead.
We're almost ready. I did have one more. Joke about you, and that was what you say that you wanted to kind of get in there and get your hands dirty with Deluge again. It brought into my mind some of those times that you ever gone to a fast food restaurant, and you go up to the counter and the manager, the floor manager, or maybe even the franchise owner is just happens to be there that day, and he or she hops in on the register, and they're just they're so extra because they're I'm going to show all of my workers how the ultimate customer experience works, especially in Tyler. Oh, hello. Oh, we're doing some Deluge for you today. Oh, love to hear that. Love to hear that. Oh, you enjoying your time here at Zenatta? Oh, great to hear that. Hey, God, it's been a while since I've been up here.
Well, you've got to bring the A game. Oh, he's got to bring the A game. Sweet. So now that Greg has gotten his additional roast of me in here, let us go ahead and jump into the code share so I can roast him.
Ooh, who did this beautiful looking code share? Oh, wait, that's me.
This guy right here.
This guy right here. Oh, I look like a biker gang member, but from one that's
pouty
not tough.
Biker gang. Very pouty biker.
Yeah. Ooh, very pillowy lips. I'm allowed to say that about myself. This code share is about creating a running total using SQL or SQL, as we often refer to it. This would be if now you can calculate a lot of running totals just by using a pivot view, but occasionally you might need to do some very particular joins or relations of data tables to each other that get really nitty gritty, that can get a little muddied in a pivot table, and you just want to have it all exist as a data table by itself. And normally if you use an aggregate function like a sum, then what you have to do is you then have to group by everything that is not an aggregate function, and then you're just left with the grand total at the end of the day. What this code share is showing is something that's referred to as a tabular function, which is you have an aggregate function, in this case, summing an amount, a currency field, and I'm going to add a couple of keywords to kind of take it out of that normal aggregate function space. And now it's something that is going to appear line by line on the data table rather than consolidating and grouping a bunch of rows together. And so you have this partition by keyword that then says, what do you want to group things by? In this case, I want to have a running total of the amount generated by each deal owner, right? So that I can look at a deal and see how much. Okay, so for this deal, I see that this is the amount of this particular deal, and now how does that compare to, the grand total of all the amount that they've made up until that point? Then I say that I want to order it by the created time of that deal, and you could change that to be closing date or whatever else. And it does ascending by default, but you can define ascending or descending there. And then the last part there is it sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, rows unbounded preceding and current row. But what that's saying is I want you to run this calculation starting from unbounded preceding, which is just fancy words for the beginning of the table. I wish you could just say start and current row, but unbounded preceding, it sounds so floral. I love it. And current row, so it means that it would look at the first row of the table and add everything up until the deal that you're currently looking at. I know that was a bit of a fire hose of information, but maybe you're like me and it's like, just give me a code snippet first and I'll paste it in, and then I'll reverse engineer it and figure out what each piece is doing on its own. So there it is at your disposal. You can just replace some of those column names or table names to create other running totals that you might need.
Well, I'll be coming back to this next time I need to do a partition by, because I hate doing those, and you always give me a hard time because I use mins or maxes to get things, and you're like, stop it.
You don't have to. You don't have to do that.
Well, before I give Greg any more ammo and share my growing incompetence, let us get over to what's new on Zenatta.com. Alrighty, so what's new over here on Zenatta? Well, something pretty big is new. Earlier this week, we recorded and posted out our 2023 full product tutorial for SalesIQ. So that is about an hour long, 50-something minute long tutorial that we did. If you're thinking, you know what, I am just sick of hearing Tyler's voice. We actually did get a comment on a YouTube video once that keeps me up at night that says, this guy's voice is so grating. The mean things people say.
Anyways, so sorry, Tyler.
Before I start crying, let's get back into it. So
I didn't think you were
going
to read that. I never would have written it otherwise.
Oh, yeah. No, you just send me those things directly through Click.
That's true.
But yeah, this kind of a write-up covers everything that we went through on this, kind of an overview of the app, a couple of the automation features and bots, a couple of the primary integrations that we end up setting up when we use SalesIQ. Kind of a long read, definitely worth going through. If you don't like to read, then check out the video. That will give you basically all the same info, but in a nice digestible video format.
Just kiss.
Then, last but not least, let's get on into our tip of the week. All right. I think, is this the first time we've had Alex in a video, Greg, Freddie? I think so, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. This is his first one.
First time. So yeah, Alex, one of our senior creator developers, absolute genius when it comes to all things creator, took the time to make a video here about stateless forms in Zoho Creator. These are a really powerful tool when you're dealing with data that you don't want to hold. and that you don't want to store as plain text, something like passwords, right? We use a stateless form in our onboarding flow. We have to get access to a Zoho account to help out our customers. We do not want to store a password in plain text. We don't want it emailed. I don't even want it texted in iMessage. I don't want any of that. So we use a stateless form, which basically means data is collected by the form. It is immediately encrypted and then sent elsewhere, right? So that we are not actually storing it. Yeah, it's just a pass through. But there's actually a lot of cases where it's a best practice to use one of these. So what Alex kind of goes through here is how to set up the form, how to define it as stateless, because by default, a form is not stateless. It will store the data that's submitted. And then even shows kind of how to set up a simple function to get that data where you want it to go, right? Because you will actually need to use deluge, right? If you want it to go anywhere, it has to happen immediately and it has to happen with a function. So yeah, make sure to check this out. Show Alex a little love. Make sure to give him a like on that if you find it useful. Because again, these are really not obvious, like even why you would use them. But there's a ton of cases where you probably should be using one of these to make sure that you're not storing any data that you don't want.
Yeah, exactly.
Big shout out to Alex for that one.
So happy to have him participating on the content creation here, because he knows it better. He knows it better. Half the people that know how to do it.
Yep.
Let's not have the blind leading the blind here of making exactly. Tyler or myself do a creator video on stateless forms.
Yeah.
How was I today? Was I more straight-laced?
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. A lot of the unhingedness was just focused on roasting me, but that's kind of the norm. I like that anyways. So
yeah, no, I count that as straight-laced. Yeah,
that's just reasonable. Like that's just what you should do. If you've spent any time with me, it's hard not to. So without any further ado, let's wrap it up for today. If you watch this and you want to get in touch with myself or Greg or Brett or anybody on the Zenatta team, just head over to zenatta.com and click on that big old book a meeting button. As well, while you're on the website, be sure to check out our full list of podcasts with links to all the stories we discussed today. And if you do find that news useful and you want it delivered to your inbox every Monday morning, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter.
And you can head over to club.zenatta.com to join our online community. That's where we put up our code share snippets every week, as well as where you can submit questions for our Q&A show Azaz, or make requests for what kind of tutorial videos do you want to see. You can also go to zenatta.com/training and get your team trained up in some of the key Zoho apps in less than a week. And as always, we would really appreciate if you would give us a like and a subscribe here on YouTube, ring that notification bell, as well as follow us on your favorite choice of podcast app.
Thanks again for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Man, you snuck that wink in right at the end. That was like perfect timing.
Ooh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, everybody.
This is my winky, baby.